Hi, everyone. Rich Sassman here with Century 21. Scott Swinford with Hancock Mortgage.
Hey, that's me.
Hey, if you watch Mortgage Tip Monday every Monday, feel free to like and share this. That would mean the world to us.
And thank you. Thank you for watching Mortgage Tip Monday every week.
Yeah, it means everything to us because, what was...
Let me turn my phone down.
It's like you have clients or something, man.
You would think I would learn by now, but I guess I haven't.
Well, it meant a big deal to me when I was out at the Parade of Homes on Wednesday for Ladies' Day. I had a table set up and whatnot, and it was awesome to have people come up to me and say that they see my videos every Monday and they watch them, and it was a great feeling knowing that they've learned something, and they said that even, which is great. So
it's kind of strange because I get that too.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, we watch you on Monday. Who's that weird guy? No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
Who's that weird guy? That's
who's that weird guy with Rich?
So.
No,
but
you know what? And thank you for doing that, by the way. And I'm sorry if you walk up to me and you say hi, and I don't recognize you right away. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. It's nothing personal. But we are starting to get that. We're starting to get a little bit of some action with the videos here, and people are knowing, at least they know who we are. So again, if I don't immediately recognize, I'm sorry. Just look at me silly, introduce yourself, and I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, if you know anybody looking to buy or sell a home, tag them in here so they can get some great information. So it's always good to help your friends, right? Family.
I agree.
Maybe. Hopefully. But anyways, so I talked about my Wednesday. My weekend went great. Had an open house, beautiful house across from the Parade of Homes, basically, and how was your weekend?
About 4 days too short.
I know.
Just being straight here. Yeah, I spent most of Saturday in Grand Rapids, or Grandville, actually, up by Grand Rapids. My son was bowling, so I got to watch him bowl for a little while. And I did some other stuff yesterday, and so I could use a couple days off, actually.
Exactly.
It's not going to be today. Tomorrow's not looking real good either.
No, I got a lot of stuff to do.
Going on.
But one thing that people have asked us, and I think it's time to touch on it since we haven't touched on it in a while, is what is an appraisal? Does an appraisal protect you? Does an appraisal protect the mortgage company? Does the appraisal do anything besides create headaches? Yes to all.
Yes.
So first off, if you're a cash buyer, they are not required. Maybe recommended. Make sure that you're you are not over purchasing in a home and whatnot. If you're having any type of mortgage, is it required? Yes. And this is where Scott comes in.
Well, basically, Rich, what an appraisal is this just, it's a valuation of the property and the structure, so that, because, you know, my underwriter, and she's awesome, but she's down in right outside Houston, Texas. So she can't come up and see every house that we do a loan on.
No.
So what she does is she reaches out to an appraisal management company. We don't have one or two appraisers that we use. She reaches out to a management company and says, do me a favor, you're the experts in this field. Go out there, look at the house, research it, look for sales, things like that, and just let me know if the value is there for the purchase price. Now, if we're buying a $200,000 home and it's worth $600,000, it's not a big deal. We're fine. If you're buying a $200,000 home and you're paying $200,000 and it's worth $195,000, it is a big deal. We look at that because that's the value of the asset that we're lending upon.
Well, I like to simplify it and say, hey, if you were loaning out the money and the collateral that they were giving you wasn't worth what you were willing to loan them, and you don't have confidence in them paying you back, would you still loan out the money? Of course not, because you want to make sure you get paid back all your money. And in the case of the mortgage company, that's all it's doing. It's proving that it's worth that.
And that's a lot of money.
It is.
That's an awful lot of money. If I walked up to you and said, hey, Rich, can I borrow $180,000? You probably wouldn't pull your wallet. Well, you might pull your wallet out. Maybe. I know. You're probably good.
Maybe.
Or search for change in the couch. But it's a lot of money. And certainly the underwriter and the companies that ultimately do the servicing and things, they want to make sure that the value's there in case something happens down the road.
Exactly.
And that's really all what it is. So what are some things that they look for? They want to make sure that it's safe, that it's structurally sound, that it's sanitary, and certainly that the value is there. So, if you've got windows, they should open. If you have doors, they should open. If you have things that shouldn't open, they shouldn't open. It's pretty simple. They want to make sure that the water's running, that you have indoor plumbing, that there's no exposed studs in the walls, that you have drywall and things on there. And really, that's for fire protection, to keep fire from going from one room to another. You need a drywall. But there's doors on bedrooms and things like that. Again, it's a safety issue.
Yeah. And to be fair, all this stuff shouldn't be looked at by the appraisal since we're having an inspection before the appraisal. Because if you remember the timeline on the sale, you definitely have an inspection before you order the appraisal. All that stuff should be addressed. Windows that don't open in bedrooms, how is your child going to get out in case of emergency? So it's very important. So all that stuff should either be fixed or before the appraisal happens.
And that's exactly why we do a home inspection. But that's what, again, the home inspector is there for you as the borrower, so that you understand what you're getting into. And they'll go through a lot of different things and check out the electrical and the plumbing and the appliances and show you where the gas turnoff is and the electrical box is and all those things. And that's really for you to make sure that you are getting a good deal. And then when they send the inspection back, they give it to Rich to make sure there's nothing that needs to be repaired, adjusted, replaced, whatever.
Because in general, if you have a good agent, whether it's myself, hopefully myself, we know in general what the appraisal people are going to be looking for. Untreated wood outside. That seems to be the number one thing that they call out. And I know before we get to the appraisal process, I'll talk with people who are representing the buyers, or if the sellers, or if I'm representing the sellers, saying, "Hey, get that covered up. A quick coat of paint. Quick, put up something that will make sure that the wood is not bare, because that's something that can kill an appraisal right there." And then you have to pay to have them reappraise it too.
Appraiser will send out on the appraisal and say, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. And then, of course, they have to go back out and check it after you've corrected it. And, of course, they're going to want to get paid for doing that. So, yeah, you're right. We try to get all those things taken care of in advance. But while the home inspection is there for you to show you what you're getting into, the appraiser is really for me and my company to make sure that the value of your house, or what we would call an asset because we're loaning money on it, is there, and that there's not going to be anything that could potentially cause issues. And again, we look at like an FHA appraisal, like Rich said, bare wood, peeling paint, broken glass, things like that could be safety related. And generally, all of those are picked up by the home inspector beforehand.
Yes.
So we don't see a lot of things like that. And usually the appraisals are pretty quick. If you're selling a house, the appraiser comes in 10 or 15 minutes, take a few pictures. A lot of the work what they do is done kind of at the office, because they'll look up previous sales, they'll look up tax information, a lot of other things that they do.
They're just verifying all the information at that point. So they're going in, doing all the basic measurements and making sure the rooms are there, that the tax records are saying that are there. And they're comparing apples to apples. So if you're in a community of 2 stories and you're a ranch, he's not going to compare your house to the 2 stories. He's going to be finding the closest ranches with a similar floor plan, like similar everything, because they want to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So all that work is done beforehand. So don't worry about them being in your house for 2 hours. Like he said, it's going to be 15 minutes.
Usually pretty quick.
So.
Yeah, and what they're, again, what Rich is saying, what they're looking for is they want to make those comparisons. So if you were in a subdivision with an 1,800 square foot ranch, and there's been 5 or 6 of them that have sold that are comparable within the last, say, 90 days or a year, it'll be easy. If you live in an area and you've got a 4,000 square foot log cabin, it might be a little more difficult to find 4,000-foot log or 4,000 square foot log cabins that have sold within a mile or two of your home. So then it's a little bit harder for them, but they have to make a determination of value. And what that does is really it just assures the underwriter that they're writing the loan and that there's sufficient value for the money that they're lending
at that point in time.
It's really right. But that's right when we close the loan, but the home has that value or greater. It doesn't matter if you think, wow, my home is worth 350 and you're selling it for 250 and the appraisal comes back at 251 or 252. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the value of the house. It just means that the appraiser is saying, yes, it's worth what you're paying for it. So,
yeah. And now let's talk about what options you have if a bad appraisal comes in. And if there's any other realtors watching here, we've all dealt with that. And there's sometimes there's ways around a bad appraisal.
Well, and it's difficult for me as the lender to go to the appraiser, and I really can't, because we can't influence them on most appraisals.
No.
We can't go out and say, well, you know what, you did a bad job, or you should have done this, or you should have done that, because really they're considered the professionals in their field. We can look at the appraisal and say, well, this house has the what we call the subject property, or when you're buying, has 200 square foot more living space, but you didn't calculate that out when you compared it to the other properties. Or this one has a 2-car garage and the other ones have a 1-car garage, which is greater in value. So we'll look at things like that and just go through it and make sure that the appraisal looks fair. Or if there are recent comps, like if I call Rich and say, hey, Rich, the appraisal came back low, these are the comparables that he used. And he says, well, they just sold a house just almost exactly like that down the street for a month ago for $2,000 more. Well, I don't see that listed on the appraisal. I don't see where that was a comp. So we can send those things to the appraiser and just say, you might have made a little bit of a mistake. Here's some comparables. This is where the agents got the number that they were coming up with to make the offer on it. And so we want to be nice. We want to do it in a dignified kind of way. And again, but we have to be careful because we can't tell the appraiser how to do their job.
No.
But we can certainly help them out a little bit and say, here's what we saw. This is where
help us understand how you came up with your numbers. This is how we got ours.
Yeah, this is the houses the agents used to come up with this number for the sales price or the listing amount. Excuse me. Now, when we talk about VA appraisals, those are a little bit different because we do have some options there. And that's the nice thing. I'm not going to get real deep into it, but just understand that the VA, their whole concept is to get buyers into homes. They're veteran buyers into homes. So they can work with us a little bit on the appraisal. If something comes back and they say, well, we really think that the appraiser says, we really think you should have handrails around this deck. And the deck is 32 inches off the ground. Well, we may be able to look at it and say, well, you know what? The buyer is planning on taking down that deck and they're going to build a new one. So we can actually approach the VA and say, they're going to take this down. It would be a hardship for them to have to put rails up, and it wouldn't make sense because they're going to take it down, and ask the VA if they're okay with that, if they'll approve it.
The VA is all about making sure that the veteran is not put into a hardship. So that's the key word. And when you're dealing with them, if that you don't like something about the appraisal, like the handrail or something, it's a hardship.
Right. And there are certain things that we can do. Again, we would never risk the safety or the security or the structural integrity of a property for that. But there are some things that the VA is okay with as long as they know you have a plan. So it's not a hardship. The other nice thing about the VA appraisal is if the appraiser doesn't come back with that value, they're not going to necessarily send an appraisal back that's $5,000 or $10,000 low. They're going to reach out to us and say, I'm not coming up with the same numbers that you did. Send me the properties you used as comps, and the agents have 48 hours to send in those new comparables so that VA appraiser can come up with the value, what they call the notice of value. And that's a nice thing, because there are some times where they would miss a property that was sold, or they didn't see it on the MLS or something. So it gives the agents an opportunity to say, this is why we priced it here. These are the properties we used again. And there are times when we will get an improvement on what they were going to send out, just because they didn't see those things.
Exactly. And I mean, there's mistakes happen. Every person in the world makes a mistake here and there. So, and there are tools there to help protect the buyers and the mortgage companies. I was dealing with somebody that was refinancing their house. I was helping them out, and I gave them my opinion of value on my comps and everything, and their appraisal went horrible. It was off by $50,000. The guy just was having a bad day evidently, and didn't do his job to the fullest extent. Well, the mortgage company that was refinancing reached out to them and said, "Hey, we're not going to accept this." They told my clients, so they asked for another appraisal from a different company, because they knew, since they do business so much in that area, that they understood that this appraisal wasn't accurate. So they got an appraisal with a different management company, and things went great. So everybody has bad days. So, and sometimes they just miss some obvious things. It happens to everyone. No matter what job you do, sometimes things just don't happen right. So, and
Excuse me.
it's not an attack on anyone. It's just that's just life. So,
Right.
But anyways, having said that, appraisals, if your realtor has done their job, they shouldn't come in too horribly off from what the appraisal will be, because first of all, I take pride in making sure that my clients don't overpay for a house. I research everything before we write an offer to make sure that I'm almost 100% confident that the house is always worth what they offer. So that, to me, that's huge, because I don't want you to ever feel strained by the house knowing that you can't sell it and make a profit. I want you to be able to sell it in a few years to make some money. I mean, a house is supposed to be an investment, not a burden. So anyways, knock on wood, I haven't had too many appraisal issues, and hopefully this video doesn't start them for me.
I've been lucky. I've been actually very lucky with the appraisals, and the ones that didn't come in, we were able to reach out in some cases to the VA or to the VA appraiser and say, hey, here's what we saw. Maybe you missed this or whatever. And we can generally get a fair appraisal. So, but just remember, the appraisal is not something you should be scared of. And if you're the buyer, it's something that you really want, because you want to make sure that you're not overpaying for the property. Again, if your real estate agent is doing their job, both agents, they're pricing this appropriately and are also helping you make your offer in what would be considered a fair value. And that's all we're looking for.
Yeah. And Todd, just throwing, if we do get a bad appraisal, I'll make this real fast here since we're coming up on 19 minutes. If there's an appraisal that came in, let's say 5-10 grand lower, well, there's a couple options. The buyer brings the money to the table. The seller reduces the price, or B or C, everybody walks away. Those are the three options when it comes to if an appraisal comes in low. So, and usually there's some common ground that everybody can find. So, having said that, I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you enjoy this every week, please like and share this. It would mean the world to us. Tag one of your friends that is thinking about buying a house or selling a house. That way they can get some great information.
Sure.
Other than that, I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next Monday for Mortgage Ship Monday. He's Scott Swinford with Hancock Mortgage. I'm Rich Sassman with Century 21. Have a great week.
Glad we got that in. Woo! Take care.